Good morning and welcome to our draw along, where this week we are going to be drawing the llama. So we are continuing our journey through South America, visiting and studying animals from South America, and the llama is next on our list. So a couple of facts for you before we start. Llamas are members of the camelid family, meaning they're pretty closely related to vicuñas and camels. The camelids first appeared in the central plains of North America about 40 million years ago. And then about 3 million years ago, llamas' ancestors migrated to South America. So they've been around a really long time. During the last ice age, camelids went extinct in North America. Now there are around 160,000 llamas and 100,000 alpacas in the United States and Canada. They were first domesticated and used as pack animals 4,000 to 5,000 years ago in the Peruvian highlands. So not only have they been around a long time, but we have domesticated them for quite a significantly long time as well. So should we get started? I'm going to be drawing my alpaca landscape. But you're obviously welcome to change that. If you want to work on your page portrait based, you can. You might even want to use a completely different reference picture and maybe draw the whole body of the alpaca as well. I'm just going to be focusing on the head, and I kind of want to give a little bit of detail and time to the eye because I think these llamas have got really characteristically big eyes, which kind of adds to the cute factor on them, I think. So as always, I'm going to start by sketching very sketchily so that if I've made mistakes, it's going to be easy for me to correct it out. So I'm just roughly plotting out the rough shapes to begin with, and then I'll probably adjust them as I go along. But I just want to make sure that the main features are in pretty much the place that I want them to be, and that my proportions look right, which is always a little bit trickier on some drawings. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the different animals we draw or just some days we're just feeling it. Some days we are not. Let's see what today's going to be. A really big round eye. Love it. And you can see his eyelashes as well. Now already my llama's looking a little bit evil. So I'm going to adjust the shape of his eye because that's often what happens. Eyes can show a lot of expression, and if it's a slight angle off, it can go from looking cute to like it wants to kill you. So I wasn't going for a murderous llama today, so I've adjusted that. And then he's got these lovely nostrils. Look velvety, don't they? So it'd be interesting trying to create this sort of texture of those as we go along as well. And you can even see, when you work down the mouth, you can see his teeth as well. So I'm going to try and draw them out. I think they're their lower teeth. If you've got your reference picture on a device, you could probably zoom in and see them a bit clearer. We've got this bottom lips jutting out. And you can just see two teeth. I'm going to put them in as well. And then his chin moving into his jaw. And that's when his fur starts getting really long and shaggy and a little bit messy. And he's got his ear pinned back a little bit. Nice long ears. Again, very furry. It's hard to see the details because of all that shaggy fur. I'm just going to sketch a rough outlining of the fur. When I come to adding colour, I'll put a lot more detail into that. At the moment, I feel like my picture is looking a little bit cartoony. This happens sometimes with me. We'll see if it develops on a bit. I'm going to rub out some of those guidelines as well because they just confuse my brain a little bit. There's too much going on. Hard trying to get the other part of the face in. So obviously you can just see the inklings of the eye on the other side, and that can be sometimes difficult to do. You've got this glorious mane of hair on top, or fur, sorry, I should say. Okay, that's my starting point, and I'm also going to sketch in this red decorative little tassel we can see in there as well. Lower down there is a purple one as well, but I don't think I've got room on my page for that one. So I think I'm going to try and do what I did last draw along, if you joined us when we did the capybara. And that's to try and put like a base colour down first and then go on afterwards and add in fur strokes and stuff. But I'm going to begin as I generally always do, which is with the eye, making sure I've got nice detail. And even with the pupil, I'm not just colouring it in solid black, I've got variation in tones in the pupil. So it's darker around the edges and then lighter towards the middle to sort of make it look a bit dome-like, like a 3D shape rather than a flat shape. And make sure to leave a nice big white highlight as well. So leave a section of it that shows light reflecting, because that adds a lot of life to the picture. And then I'm going to use a dark brown for the outer edges. I might add a little bit of black to that as well, because he does look like he's got very dark eyes. And I can see some of the white of his eye, so I'm going to make sure to leave some of that there as well. Oh, she said that and then didn't. There we go. Now I'm going to switch to a dark grey. It's almost like it's got like makeup, like eyeliner under his eyes. It's not quite dark black. It's definitely a grey colour, and we've got some grey tones in the fur as well. So what I'm going to do, I said obviously I want to put colour down and then add fur in afterwards. So I'm going to use greys. I'm not going to colour it grey because it is a white alpaca, but I'm using grey to sort of create some tone. So on your reference image, look where you can see shadows and some darker spots, and then use the grey there. That's what I'm doing anyway. You don't have to do it that way, of course. I'm going to go into the nostril. Not literally, that would be a bit disgusting, but with the pencil. And it's slightly darker around his nostrils. It's a darker grey, so I'll probably potentially add a bit of black to it as well. We'll see how we go. I could just build it up in layers. Read out some more facts, give my hand a bit of a break. So in terms of size, llamas can grow as much as 6 foot tall, though the average llama is normally between 5'6" and 5'9". So I'm 5'3" and a bit, so they're taller than me. I think I'd be quite intimidated running into one. They can weigh between 280 and 450 pounds and can carry 25 to 30% of their body weight. So a 400-pound male llama can carry around 100 to 120 pounds on a trek of 10 to 12 miles with no problem. But they do know their own limits. If you try to overload a llama with too much weight, the llama is likely to lie down or simply refuse to move. They are hardy and well suited to harsh environments. They're quite sure-footed, easily navigating rocky terrain at high altitudes. They are smart and easy to train. There you go. Not your standard cat or animal then, really. I'm going to just put some black into the darker areas of the grey here as I go along. I feel like I needed a bit of a yellowy tone for the tooth. I haven't got one, so I'm going to make do with grey again. And hope for the best. So yeah, lots of switching with colours and tones. Try and get this sort of depth of colour, and that's what helps make it look a bit more 3D and more realistic, rather than just all being one colour. I'll rub out some of these pencil lines as I go, because again it can get a bit confusing about in relation to where I've actually got to with the picture. I need to move a little bit quicker now because I need to make sure that I've given myself enough time, because I want to get that base layer down that I mentioned. I need to allow enough time for the paper to dry after I've used the water. So I'm going to start rushing a little bit just to make sure I've got to give myself that time. You could even use quite a sandy tone on this part of the fur. When you look at the pictures, there is really quite a fair amount of brown tone in there. But for whatever reason, I didn't see it when I was picking out my pencils, so I'm just going to stick with the greys. And this is, again, what's good about artwork is that actually you don't have to make an exact carbon copy of what's in front of you. If you wanted to add some colour to your llama and make it, you know, white with brown patches or even rainbow coloured if you want to, you can do, because there are no rules here. You can do whatever you like. Okay, need to get a move on. Not you guys, me. I don't need to be too fussy about the placement of the colour at this stage, because I'm just, like I say, just using it to put base colour on, and then I can use the pencils after it's dry to show the sort of fur texture. And because some of it, when you look, some of it looks straight, some of it looks quite curly, some is wavy. So I want to try and do that when the base is dry, using the pencils. Work up this hair that he's got up here. It's quite fabulous hair. I'm not sure I'm doing it justice though. We might be able to pull it back with the details in a bit. Bringing in a new grey, and I don't know if it's my wisest choice, but we'll see. It's got a bit of a browny tint, which is what I was saying about in the fur, so let's risk it. I think it's all right, actually. I think that works. I'll put some in the little mouth as well. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to start adding some water, just so I've got enough time for it to dry and for me to then work on top. I'm still going to leave some white space. I'm not colouring the whole thing. I do want some white on the page. Ooh. I can come back to the eye later, because I'm not really going to work in more detail to the eye, so I just want to concentrate on the fur areas for now. And I'm being very sparing with water because obviously, again, I don't want it to take too long to dry, but also I don't want the colours to bleed out too much. I want there to be white space, and I want there to be variation in tone. So I don't want it just to make a big grey puddle on my page. Not sure about his hairdo at the moment. Something doesn't seem quite right with that. It's very easy to look at a picture at any stage before you've finished it and think, oh God, this is not going how I expected it to, and to want to give up. And I used to do that a lot when I was younger. I used to just get bored of it, thinking I'm never going to be able to make that better. And actually what I've discovered, and if you were here with us last week with the capybara, sometimes just the last few couple of details can make all the difference. So with the capybara, mine just didn't look right until I'd drawn his eyelashes on. And it's just a small detail in the scheme of things, but it really made a difference to the whole picture. So what I'm saying is, if you're feeling disheartened with your artwork and don't feel like it's going well, don't necessarily give up on it. Keep at it, because you might be surprised how it turns out in the end. Even if it's still not exactly what you wanted, it might be a pretty decent picture still. When I'm concentrating, because I'll be really quiet. So on these little fine details around the mouth, I think it's important to try and show the contrast between the colours and tones. And I want it to look velvety. So I'm really blending those colours nicely so it looks like a smoother surface compared to what the fur will look like. Okay, so now I can, with my finer paintbrush, if I can find it, focus on the eye for a little bit, and then hopefully that's given me enough time for some of the drawing, some of the painting to have dried, to then be able to go and put some more fur details in. We'll see. Again, making sure, if you're using watercolours, where you've tried to show variation in tone with the pencil, try and maintain that with the water as well. So I don't want this just to become one solid black circle. I want it to look darker on the edges and lighter in the middle. So you sort of use your paintbrush to move the water around where you want it to go. Like that. Okay. So, still a bit damp, so what I'm going to do is work on that red tassel that looks like it's coming from around the ear. So again, all the strands are all sort of different directions, so you kind of want to make it look like that, look organic and not too neat, because it will look too, I don't know, robotic almost. It won't look right. It won't look like the right texture if you drew lots of just straight lines parallel with one another. It is all almost like it's tangled. And again, I can go in afterwards if I wanted to with a pencil, just to make it look more like a stringy texture. But we'll see what it looks like after I've put the paint on. It might not need it. I'll do this bit, then I'll read some more facts out, and then I'm ready to add in the texture. Cool, so some more facts for you. They have been used as guard animals for livestock like sheep or even alpacas in North America since the 1980s, and they require almost no training to be an effective guard. Llamas don't bite, so though they have these big teeth, they don't bite, but they do spit when they're agitated, but that's mostly at each other's. They'll also kick and neck wrestle each other when agitated. They are herbivores and have very effective digestive systems. A llama's stomach has 3 compartments. They are called the rumen, the omasum, and the obomasum. Again, I don't know if I said that right. So a cow's stomach has 4 compartments, and like cows, llamas must regurgitate and rechew their food to digest it completely. Yummy. Llama poop has no odour. Llama farmers refer to llama manure as llama beans. It makes for a great eco-friendly fertiliser. And historically, the Incas in Peru burned dried llama poo for fuel. They live to be about 20 years old, though some only live for around 15 years and others live to be around 30 years old. A baby llama is called a cría, which is Spanish for baby. Mother llamas usually only have 1 baby at a time, and llama twins are incredibly rare. Pregnancy lasts for around 350 days, so nearly a full year, and crías are born weighing 20 to 35 pounds at birth, which when you consider as a comparison, both my children were in the 8-pound mark. 35 pound is pretty hefty sized baby. They come in a range of solid and spotted colours, including black, grey, beige, brown, red and white. And they are social animals and prefer to live with each other, with other llamas or herd animals, so they can live, for example, with sheep. The social structure of llamas changes frequently, and a male llama can move up the social ladder by picking and winning small fights with the leader of the group. A group of llamas is called a herd. I've got a few more facts for you, but I'm going to carry on for now with adding some detail in to my llama. So I'm going to start adding fur lines to make it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm looking at my reference picture at the length of the fur, but also the direction I can see the fur is growing. So around his eye, it's like all different directions. So that's what I'm going to show. And then on the nose and everywhere, it's very short fur. And it's all growing up towards the head. And this is the easy bit at the moment. When we get to the long, shaggy stuff, that will be the challenge. Where's that colour? Like that one. And this is where you can start to see that depth building now. You can see that it looks a little bit more realistic straight away. It hasn't taken me much, but putting in those additional layers of colour, but also the texture, I think, is really helping to make a difference. And I'm trying to vary the length slightly, so I don't want it to look too neat, because fur doesn't look very neat. When you look on an animal, it looks a little bit, not all over the place, but you can see variation. So if you make it too neat, it looks unnatural. And I'm not covering everything, mostly because I don't have time to do that. But it's about giving the suggestion of the fur. I'm not happy with those fur lines, so I'm going to take them out. And then I'm going to go around the ears and start working on them a bit. I think a lighter grey in there as well, because the fur looks a little bit whiter. But I have got, and again, I say I have got, I put it down somewhere, a white gel pen that I will use as well to add in more strands in a little bit. Now, if I was working on coloured background, I would be using probably the white gel pen to do some of the fur that you see coming off of the ears. But because I'm not, I'm changing the colour so that I can still put those long strands in. That's once again just an example of us using our artistic license and saying, okay, how will I overcome that issue? I need to show fur, but I can't really show it on white paper very clearly. So we just change the colour of the fur. Okay, this is going to get the tricky bit. In a second, I'll start working up on top of his head, which is the bit that I think is not looking too good at the moment. So let's see if I can turn it around. Have we got faith? I'm not so sure. I think the shape of it is not quite right, but we will persevere. I had a feeling it was not going to go well. Oh well. Something just isn't quite right on the top of my llama's head and I can't figure it out. But do feel free to write a comment if you think you know what it is. I'm happy to be critiqued by other people. So now this really shaggy fur. So this is going to be where we sort of put in some curls and some darker shadows to really show a lot more texture and shagginess as well. So I'm literally creating wavy lines with my pencil strokes as well. Not all of them and not all going the same way, exactly, because again, that just won't look natural. And you could spend ages doing this and putting loads and loads of fur lines in. I'm obviously not going to have time to do that. But just putting a few lines in does really help to give a sense of texture. So even if you haven't got time to do all of them, it's worth doing some. So I'm switching colours as well. So we've got that variation in colour. It's not all looking exactly the same. I probably will build a little bit more tone up in the little red tassel as well, because I think it's looking a little bit flat. So I'm going to put some more pencil lines in there as well. And then finally, well, not quite finally actually, I'm going to go in with a black to create some shadowing. So I'm going in with a low light if you like, and then the final step for me will be using the gel pen to put the highlights in. So that will include putting some eyelashes on him, which will make a big difference to how it finally looks. Nearly done. So let's have a look. I could put some highlights along the ear, maybe some white fur there. These eyelashes are really important, and they're actually coming down over the eye. Not sure how I feel about that. That's not too bad. And again, you can just add in some more hairlines over the top of your base colour. And it's a really subtle thing, but when you're looking close at the picture, you can see it, and it just adds further texture. So if you haven't got one, I really think this is a good investment. The gel pen, I think it really can add some subtle highlights that work to give that variation in tone and lift your picture up a little bit more. So there we go. There's my llama. I just need to find my pencil so I can sign it. And then I've got a couple more facts to share with you. So, llamas have two wild cousins that have never been domesticated, and they're the vicuña and the guanaco. The guanaco is closely related to the llama, and vicuñas are thought to be the ancestors of alpacas. The current population of llamas and alpacas in South America is estimated to be more than 7 million. Trying to tell the difference between a llama and an alpaca, there are two obvious things to look for. Llamas are generally about twice the size of alpacas, and alpacas have short, pointy ears, whereas llamas have much longer ears that stand straight up and give them an alert look. So our llama in this picture at the moment has got his ears pinned back, but normally they'd be upright, and they're double the size of an alpaca. They are not considered to be an endangered species. They used to be hunted for their wool, but there are now laws to protect them. And llama's native range is the Andes Mountains of South America, primarily Peru and Bolivia, but none are found in the wild anymore. And the most common predators of llamas are coyotes, mountain lions, and ocelots. So that's it for today's draw along. If you want to receive feedback on your artwork, lovely Joe, who is our art assessor at the moment, is going to be online to provide that for you. So just look out for our post at 1 o'clock and post your illustration as soon as you can. Joe will be going offline by 3 p.m. So if you post over after that time, Joe won't be able to complete feedback for you. But next week we are back to normal again, and me and Michael will be going live. I forget which animal we're doing, but it could potentially be a toucan. We are staying in South America for the next few weeks and for the rest of the academic year. So feel free to join us then. See you later.